everyone. Welcome to another video.
Hello.
So welcome to our November 2024 TBR list. We just did October's. I'm so excited. Yep. November's NaNoWriMo. So keep in mind this is pretty precarious, but I would say I failed October's. But I'm going to need a lot of wind down time after the chaos of November because I'm not just writing a book. I'm like writing potentially one or two, but writing one, drafting another. I'm editing 2 or 3. My editor just finished Remnant, so I may be editing Survivor soon because we haven't had a chance to meet up yet. So it'll be chaos, and I'm going to need some books to ground me. So
yeah. School's going to be pretty busy because a lot of my food labs are going to start up. Some of them may start in November too. So
yeah,
like 45 to 60 some middle schoolers in a kitchen.
Oh my gosh,
interesting. Not all at once. When we did the Lord, but not all at once. Yeah, there are different hours, but that's going to be coming up too. So I totally understand that.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll go back and forth like we did because that worked really well. Yes. So my first one, I started this one just a couple days ago. It's The Serpent of Wings and Night. If you haven't seen our other video, we talk a lot about this series. She's already finished the in-between 1 and 2. There's a short novel in between there, and then she finished book 2. And so I'm on book 1. So I want to finish this. This is like literally, this is my November TBR list, my main goal, and the one that I really am going to push myself to get done this month. But I'm really into it, and I'm on page 36 out of like 470, 480, without looking at the ending and spoiling it for myself. So that's one of my main, my first one for my November. I keep saying October TBR, like October's over. My November TBR list.
Okay. So I started this one a while back. I was looking on my phone to try to figure out when I started this. I have to go into Goodreads to figure that out. But so I started this. Okay, to give you some context, I read Assassin's Blade. Let's see, Assassin's Blade, Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, Heir of Fire, and Queen of Shadows. I read all of those around the same, like one right after the other. Right. So that gives you an idea. And this happened with me with ACOTAR, with the ACOTAR series. I read the first 2. And when I got to book 3, I lost stamina about halfway through book 3, so I had to put it down for a while. I came back and picked up where I left off, and I sped read that one and finished book 4, like the little novella, and then book 4, like and everything. So that's happened. I'm surprised I got through as many as I did before I ran out of steam. So I feel like it's improved some. But I'm I'm getting back into some of the characters that I've read, so I picked it up yesterday and continue reading it some today. But so that's kind of like my first goal is I want to get through this. Because I feel like it's like, this is one of the books where they said like from this one, the next one, and the last one are just like intense. And so like in a good way. Yeah. And so I can begin to see that building. And there's a lot of unanswered problems that have yet to solve themselves. So I think it'll be good. Yeah. I'm slowly getting back into it. So I just need, and a lot of people that have read Sarah J. Maas know this. She has an entire shelf on my bookshelf at this moment because I went them all together. Yes. So it's like, there's a lot of books and they're thick for my struggling readers that understand thick books take time. They do. So yeah.
Silver Flame was the big one. So they take time. Also, I forgot to say for everybody who may not have watched our other video, Hannah describes this, she describes it well, it's like Hunger Games mixed with vampires with like the Dark Brotherhood in Skyrim, and I would say that is 100% the vibe. I love it, and it's like, to me, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like an urban fantasy, but like gothic urban fantasy, so definitely, and there's a Hunger Games vibe that you would mention too, so that's this book.
More adultish version of Hunger
Games, but vampires are doing it, and they definitely live in like a gothic kind of world, and it's just really interesting. So it's very, very unique, and I will say the writing style is so gorgeous. It is very refreshing to have like a mature writing style, so I just wanted to throw that in there because I forgot to say that, because I forgot these are two different videos. We're filming back to back, so my brain like forgot that I hadn't talked about it yet.
Yeah,
So my next one, a little bit of a self-plug, but this is actually to keep me accountable. I have this short collection of Christmas stories called The Heart of Christmas. I need to edit it. And I grabbed the physical book because the cover is going to change. This is not like the cover, the background's going to be the same, but I'm redoing the font, so just don't like judge the book by its cover, please, because it's a better book. But I need to edit this, and I've been putting it off, and I figured if I add this to my November TBR list, I want to get this edited and re-released for December. So I need to get this done ASAP. I should be able to knock it out in a week or two. Maybe I'm giving myself a week to be lenient, but I'm adding this to my official TBR list because I'll be editing it, which is, I'm reading it too. Even though
reading it as you edit, yeah.
I'm keeping myself accountable because I need to get this done. So that's on my November
there you go.
list.
Being responsible.
Yeah, it's a collection of short Christmas stories that revolve around the heart of Christmas, which is Jesus, and they're cute little ones. Like, I actually write, like, like, you know me, I don't write teens or kids, but I'm all over the place in this book. There's, like, stories about kids, there's stories about older people. It's just, like, cute little Christmas stuff. So, especially since Christmas is coming up this month.
Okay, so if this turns out to be like I did with ACOTAR, where I get really into it and I just continue, I'm limiting myself because remember the goal is to stay with the list and not we're going to add one wild. I think we may add a wild card where you can swap something.
Yeah.
But my goal, at least my goal, is to stick to the list as much as possible. So this is the next one. They technically take place at the same time, but I am not skilled enough of the reader to read them at the same time. Some people are. And like tandem read, and I applaud people that are able to do that. I would lose so much interest in it so quickly. But Tower of Dawn takes place at the same time, but it covers different characters and like what they're doing at the same time that Empire of Storms is happening.
I think that's such a creative idea. So
the character,
really fun.
I'm on the fence about the character that's involved in this story. I was the one thing that I loved about it's the Queen of Shadows, the last one before the one right before Empire of Storm. I developed empathy for a character that I had despised in a previous book.
It says a lot about the
I have empathy. And Sarah J. Maas is really good at doing that with me. But I have empathy for him. I don't love him. I don't like him, but I have empathy for him and I feel for him.
Yeah.
And so I can understand. I'm beginning to understand why he does certain things the way he does. So I'm curious to see how I will like this book. Because
I'm curious too, honestly.
It follows him. So I'm curious to see what happens.
Yeah.
So this is like the next one. I may not read this one second. If I'm really into this one and I want to jump straight into this one, I more than likely will. But I'm not holding this one as it has to be my second one.
You may need a break.
I have several here that I could choose from if I choose to do a different one. So
yeah,
that's my second one.
All right, my third one is kind of like this whole series, but I'm going to just do the book one because I don't have the series bought yet. This is just the sample, but this kind of gives you the cover. As you guys may or may not know, the last one I tried I switched out my October TBR and kind of failed the challenge and disqualified myself. Switching it out with the military romantic suspense series, it ended up sucking, and I gave the first book, Cyclone, 2 stars, and I gave up in book 2, and I was really looking forward to that whole series. There were some that were so good, and I found a Christian one, and I read this sample. I believe in the middle of reading the sample. It sounds so good. All of the books sound, and they're Christian, so they're non-steamy, but they still have like all the angst that I'm wanting. I'm also writing military suspense right now. Military romantic suspense, whatever. So Pages of Promise by Jessica Ashley, and she seems like an indie author, so I'm really excited to also give indie author support. Me and my editor and author friend H.A. Pruitt, she only reads indie authors mostly, so I'm excited to actually have an indie author on the list this time. It seems like this girl is moving to this town, and she's living in this abandoned lighthouse, and I can't remember the blurb.
Which is the whole vibe in and of itself anyway, living at a lighthouse.
And honestly, the whole lighthouse, living in an abandoned lighthouse vibe, I read this other one called The Other World by Abby Emmons, so I'll have my review pop up on the screen. That was, oh my gosh, that was such a good book. I loved that book. So I love that kind of vibe. And I think she's gonna have some trouble, and he's got to protect her, and the guys run the security team. There was more to it than that. I'm explaining it badly, but I don't remember much of the blurb. I just know it was interesting.
No, gotcha.
So that's my third one. And again, if I read anything else in that series, it'll be a bonus added to this month.
Yeah. Okay, so these other two are purely based on, if I get to these other ones, it will be, the last two are familiar books. They're not new by any means. One of them I've read already once, and one of them I have not, or I started but had never finished.
Right.
But if I manage to get through the two Sarah J. Maas, or if I need a break, okay, the last time I read The Hunger Games was when I was in middle school, high school-ish, freshman year, 8th grade, somewhere around there. And I was a child when I read it, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to read this now as an adult.
That's really fun. I love that.
I want to see, like, do I pick up on certain things? Are there the things that I would consider red flags with people that I didn't necessarily pick up the first time? Like, is there, like, parallels to more modern society that I didn't really pick up on when I was younger? Or, like, things like that. Like, I want, and, like, some people are beginning to even, like, it's become so well known, like, that it's like, I don't know how much longer we have to be until people consider this a classic, but like you feel like, may the odds be ever in your favor. And like, sometimes people just quote that and they don't really realize that it's from The Hunger Games. Like, there's certain, like, I volunteer as tribute. Like, I've heard so many people make, like,
it's very
these kids or whatever have made comments like, you're volunteering as tribute or whatever. And it's like, I don't think they realize that it came from Hunger Games, and maybe they do. But it's like, and plus there are new books being added to this series next year as well. So we had a recent one with a Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which was really interesting. I love, I found that, because I read that one. I just read that one as an adult, and I found it really intriguing to get inside the head of President Snow. And it's like, he's a really interesting character. And it's like his brain and his thoughts are so complex. It's really interesting. So I'm hoping that this is going to be, like, this has been something I've been wanting to reread for a while now. And you can kind of see the tabs where I kind of started to read it.
It almost makes me want to do it with you, and we could do like a Hunger Games reread together, but I don't know if I have a copy.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, like, I have my original hardback cover copies, but I don't want to annotate those because it's just sentimental reasons. I don't want to annotate the ones that I read when I was kids. So I'm going to buy the paperback ones to annotate.
Yeah. I will say,
annotate as I go.
I would love to see the look on Michael's face when he hears you say that Hunger Games is possibly a classic because he hates the Hunger Games.
It's like, I don't, and I know that some people, and I don't want to make people mad by saying that, because I do the Hunger Games is probably never going to be on the level of as like Gone with the Wind or the Shakespeare, like some of the Shakespeare plays, any books now, or Lord of the Flies or Lord of the Rings. So it's like, I hope people don't get mad when I say that I wonder, as I'm not saying it's a classic, but I'm saying that there's so many people that will quote things or say things that originated from this book, like that. It's like, I mean, and if you, and it's always comes up on that list of like, when you type in that, like, when you type in like this dystopia, futuristic type stuff, Hunger Games is always like the first one that pops up. Yeah. And it's like,
I feel like it actually gained more popularity than Divergent for whatever reason. So I feel like because it's also more memeable, like not memeable, but like quoted and memeable than Twilight. And so Twilight got bigger, but like, I feel like Hunger Games was received better and loved better. Twilight's hated on a lot more for obvious reasons.
Be fair, I'm seeing the Twilight books circulating amongst my students here recently. I've seen, there's a couple of them with Eclipse. I've seen several Twilights floating around. So it's like,
it's coming back.
As much as people like to meme on Twilight and talk about how immature it is, it's like, hey, it's like, it's becoming more popular again because I'm seeing my students with them. So it's like, Twilight's always going to have a special place in my heart. yes, it's not
Same.
nearly on the level of like The Serpent and Wings of Night or some of the other stories, or like Dracula, which is a classic. It's never going to be on, like, it's not going, you can't compare those things.
Yeah.
Because they're two different universes, they're two different writing styles, they're two different types of, you know, I don't know. But it's like, and people
I
can
get
quote me in the comments if I'm wrong, but it's like, I really don't feel like there was anything exactly like this when it came out. Like the fact that the government randomly picks 2 children from each district to fight to the death as punishment for a rebellion that happened like almost 100 years ago, like not quite 100 because it's like 75 years ago. It's like nothing was written like that, at least not that I knew of, you know. And so it was like, as a middle schooler, it was like this cool new have done universe.
The whole surviving in an arena thing, like it's kind of like Sarah J. Maas, how she started the Fae thing. Hunger Games started the arena fighting to the death thing, you know, which is, like, I've always taken my inspiration more from Survivor than Hunger Games, but I mean, it inspired Hunter. Hunter's the Hunger Games meets Mulan, so selfless plug.
Yeah.
But I get it. And it holds a special place in my heart because I loved it. Like, I loved it and Catching Fire so much when I was a teenager. I loved Twilight.
Yeah.
So I totally get it. I actually want to do a series where I reread all of those books that I loved as a teenager and see if they still hold up in my adult brain. Yeah. But also a writer, because at the time I just wrote for fun. So it's like, it's interesting. All right. My third one, fourth one. My fourth and final one is carried over from my October TBR list, which is Throne of Glass. I still have my bookmark in there, and I have a credit on Audible, so I'm thinking about getting the audiobook on Audible to help me get through it. Potentially, I wish it had a dramatized audiobook, but it doesn't. She has one for the Crescent City and ACOTAR, but she doesn't have one for Throne of Glass. And so also
maybe that's to come.
Cover.
Who knows?
I hope so. Maybe it will.
That has to come later.
So, like I said, my priorities are going to be.
And I did say too.
My priorities.
If you're struggling, if you're struggling to connect with the character, we can talk about it later. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. My priorities are going to be The Serpent and Wings of Night, and then editing this, and then the military romance book, at least the first one in the series. Because again, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to read, but The Promise. What is it? Pages of Promise. So those are going to be my priorities, but. It would some nice icing on the cake for November if I could finish Throne of Glass at least. And Hannah and me had an idea, so I'll let Hannah mention the idea that she had for getting through this.
And like, there's two different ways that people have read Throne of Glass series. It seems like a large majority of people will wait until after book 2, like they'll read Throne of Glass, they'll read my eyes won't let me look at the name of book 2, I'm sorry. But like they'll read the first 2 books, I think, and then they'll read Assassin's Blade, which is a series of short stories about Helena Sardathian before Throne, that's leading up to Throne of Glass. Yeah. So it explains how she gets where she's at. That's all I'm saying. But I know you said that you found her to be very arrogant, and it's interesting because I read the Assassin's Blade first because anytime I read a book series, I want to read it in chronological order. That's why I chose to insert a book into my TBR last month, because I found out that the short novel that I found for the Serpent and Wings of Night series took place in between books 1 and 2, and I'm like, hey, I can't read book 2 until I have read this in-between book that chronologically, per the author, takes place in between those 2. So it's like, I chose to read the Assassin's Blade first because chronologically in the story, it takes place before all the other stuff happens. Yeah. So I like to see the character's story chronologically. And so I had a lot of empathy for her going into it straight away, because there are so much, and if you know, you know, there are things that happen in the Assassin's Blade that like gut you. There are things that happen, and it's like, and it was fast paced because it's like a series of short stories all jam packed into one book, and they're split up like that. They're split up into the into the short stories. So that's why I felt like the first couple books for me like seemed almost slow, because I was used to like the fast-paced stories of the Assassin's Blade, but I didn't hate her character right away, and I didn't find her character irritating right away because I had that back knowledge of what has happened to her already.
Yeah.
But that's just me as a reader, and I know that not everyone likes to do that. A lot of people like to read them as they were released.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not like that. I like to read them like I want to know if an event happens to a character first, I want to read that first.
Yeah, I can understand.
I want to read what happens to them and go through.
Yeah.
You know? But and knowing what happens in the book after, a lot of people suggest, like when they suggest you read it third, like knowing what happens in that following book, I get why you would read it then, because it addresses some of those things again.
Yeah.
So I get it. I really do. It's just a preference for me. And so that's where I'm like, if you try it this second round and you still can't get into it or get past it, that might be an option.
Yeah. Then for my third round, I will go to its prequel. But so far, and when I started it, I remember the plot doesn't seem slow paced, and it actually has pretty high stakes, because to me, like, she's a prisoner, and I'm not spoiling anything because I'm literally still at the beginning, as you guys can see. But she's a prisoner, and in order to gain her freedom, she's going to have to enter this like a contest kind of thing. So in that sense, it's kind of given me similar vibes like Hunger Games and this one and that one, because there's a tournament and you're fighting to the death, but
I didn't even think about
very
that.
differently.
Yeah.
So Hunger Games is dystopian, so it's future Earth. This is gothic vampires, but like in a really cool way. And then this is like fantasy, so it's like high fantasy.
Yeah. So I didn't even think about that, but you're right.
They all have that plot, so I'm thinking it could, like, after reading this one, I don't know if that's going to make this one seem worse because this one's probably better, or if it's going to get me in a mood for that kind of vibe, and then I'll get into this more. Yeah, and so she's got to compete to become an assassin, and then through that she can gain her freedom. If she wins, she can become the king's assassin or something and win her freedom. So it's got high stakes, and it's not a slow plot line, at least so far as I've read, but she's arrogant, and I can't stand female assassins who are arrogant, and I normally don't like female assassins, and I really don't like female characters who've gone through a lot. Like, I'm a sucker for a male character who's gone through a lot, so it's really hard for me to connect with that unless I write them in a certain way that, like, appeals to myself, just because I know my brain best. So it's just it's not a trope I like. I don't like female assassins. Maybe it's because I grew up with Assassin's Creed, so you got to give me a good male assassin and I'm fine. So which is why I don't like Odyssey, but that's a whole nother sleuth of issues. But so yeah, I don't know if the prequel would help me or not, but that's the vibe. So I hope once I got if I can get past her arrogant attitude, I feel like then the rest of the book may be okay. And actually, I wanted to point out that Sarah's writing style in this one, to me, comes off as more poetic and more mature than her recent modern writing, if that makes any sense, because she writes more poetically in this one, and it's more beautiful, like beautiful poetic prose. And I really liked that too. It's just, I cannot get past Selena's arrogance. Her arrogance was just annoying me almost as much as Nesta. But at least I had Cassian to like enjoy and look forward to his perspectives at first in Silver Flames. And that kind of got me into it. And then I ended up loving Nesta. But like, there's so far, I don't know if there's anything that's really like looking forward to this, because it's just Selena's perspective and I just need something else. But who knows? Maybe I'll get into it. So I'd like to do that. And if not, you know, I've got these other ones. So we're going to see if I can get this book done at some point. And if I can read this much. I got really busy in October and I didn't really read all that much. But so that's my very long-winded fourth choice.
I'm giving myself multiple options this time. So I've explained this in a few other videos, but I was a struggling reader when I was younger, and I was told a lot that I couldn't read certain bigger books, popular series, because they weren't my level, which they weren't, I guess. One, I needed glasses, and I hated the way I looked on my face, so I never wore them. And so I couldn't actually read until I got contacts. So that's part of my story, my reading as stories of reader. But I started reading, I've read the first 3 books of the Harry Potter series, and I started reading The Goblet of Fire.
Which number is that?
And I stopped. I stopped for whatever reason. I had this one originally, but then I lost it, and they no longer. I can't find these covers like in store anymore. But I absolutely love the way they look.
They're gorgeous.
So,
what number
this
is
lovely. This is 4, I believe.
4, okay. I don't know the titles, so you'll have to be like number whatever. So
number 4. Kidding. But
no,
yeah, so
right. Okay. Anyways,
the other thing, to keep in mind too, I had some like my best friends. One of my best friends from I met her in college. Loves Harry Potter. I've watched the movie version of this, and I didn't have the heart to tell her that I hadn't finished the book yet. So I know what happened. If you know, you know. I know what happens at the end of this.
Yeah,
I know that already. The one book that I haven't, and you'd be proud. I have avoided so many Harry Potter spoilers for Deathly Hallows.
That's crazy.
So many. I have an idea of what might happen because I saw part of a spoiler once. So I think I have a basic idea of what there's a theory that I think I know what happens. But I have been avoiding the last 3 books in that series, in the Harry Potter series, anything to do with them for years, because in book 3, the ending of book 3, I hadn't seen I didn't know anything. And so it's like the ending of book 3 took me completely by surprise. Like the Prisoner of Azkaban, like I was thrown for a loop with that one, and I loved it. I love being taken by surprise in books. So it's like kind of slightly disappointed that I kind of know what happens, but I haven't actually read it before. And so I think when I read it, it's going to be that much more emotional when I read it.
That's cool.
And then anything past this one, I have no idea.
That's going to be fun, though, when you get past that.
I've avoided spoilers for years, and I'm slightly proud of that fact. That I've avoided spoilers,
given that it's as popular as Lord of the... Not as... Like, it's almost as popular as Lord of the Rings.
Oh, I would argue it's probably... It's as popular as Star Wars or Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, like, there's 3.
One of those series that...
For reference, I've never read the books. I probably won't, because I don't read books about teenagers or kids. Just, that's a me thing. It's not anything against anybody who does.
Yeah.
But I will probably never read the books, but I did watch and enjoy the movies, but I've only done 1 or 2 watch throughs. So like I get them all, and I binged them. So I cannot separate one from another. So if people are talking about events in movie 3, I'm like, which one was that? Like they're all jumbled together.
Yeah.
So I just remember Edward from Twilight was in there at some point, and there was some sad stuff with that, I think. And the last ones are really intense, but I felt like they ended really well.
And I'm avoiding everything, and I have for years. And I'm like, except for the few things, like there are certain characters that I know certain spoilers are unavoidable, especially when they're making memorial videos on TikTok. Certain things are hard to avoid, but there are have the last 2 books I have. Other than certain things start happening to certain characters, I have the plot line of them. I have no idea, and that makes me so happy because I'm like, I'm experiencing it for the first time, and I'm enjoying it. My one wild card, I can only have 4. That's my personal thing. These 4, but
I've only got 4.
If I choose, apparently this book, which is the 3rd book in the Serpent and Wings of Night series, I'm trying to get to where it shows up. Can't see it very well.
You could put your hand behind your phone like this, and that helps the image clear, and I don't know why.
Oh, well, no. Anyway, but it's a there we go. Maybe. No. Okay. Anyway.
I'll pop it up here on the screen, you guys. Enjoy.
Yes. It's supposedly supposed to come out, be released. It's in pre-order right now, and I think, if I remember correctly, it was like November 16th, sometime. It's supposed to come out. So my wild card is if it comes out and I end up getting it, it's November 19th of this year. So this month, it's supposed to come out this month. So That's I have to swap it with something from this list.
Okay.
I'm giving myself the ability to swap it.
That's a good idea to think about. My rules are with me my personal goals is this is my official November TBR list. So I want to get as many of these done as possible. If in the case, once I get these done, like if I enjoyed this book and I want to read the next little novella or I want to read book 2, that's going to be a nice bonus. And if I enjoy this one and I read the rest of the series, like the more I can add to this, the better, but I have to at least read these 3 minus Throne of Glass. This one's gonna be a nice little bonus if I can, but I have to get these done or I fail. Anything else beyond these in these series is a bonus, and then this is also going to be a nice bonus of like, good job, Joanna, you did it. I have bragging rights. Same with that, like maybe I'll get into it and start reading this series. You never know. Like, so the series are okay beyond this, but I really just, at least these 3 are like, I have to read that.
Especially since you're participating in NaNoWriMo this month too.
The editing, the Heart of Christmas is going to be the hardest one for me because I don't want to edit and I don't care about this book anymore because it's like, it's been a while. And it's a really good one. So like, if you haven't read it, you should get it. And it's a cute little Christmas thing. Just wait till after I re-edit and format it. But it's just like one of those things where it's like not my priority right now. And it's like, when you're not into your own books, you're not into your own books. It happens. So, and I'm doing a bunch of other things this month. So that's going to be the hardest one. But like these 2, I legitly, whoopsie, I about dropped my Kindle. I'm legitly so excited for, especially this one, because I was so disappointed by the other military romance that it was so stupid. So I have high hopes for this, and I hope I don't get disappointed a second time, because Hannah can tell you we were trying to find military romances, and there is a huge void for non-spicy ones. And so I'm like, well, I guess I'll have to write my own, but like I hope this works out. And she has other
shout out to all the blogs that we looked at. I can't even remember their names, but there was one blog that we looked at that was like 14 like clean military romance novels, and I'm like, with links to Amazon, and I'm like, thank you. That was our savior. Like that made our lives so much easier in trying to find some of them. So like, you know, and everyone loves a good, when it makes sense. Yeah. Like scenes like that when it makes sense, but it's like sometimes it's just overkill, and it's like
Court of Silver Flames, they had arcs. Like it's hard to explain, but like the steamy, spicy stuff in that one, I will say.
Their relationship was in stages. Yeah, like they had stages to their relationship. The
scenes had dynamics and arcs within that about what was going on, and I felt like it worked. Like I skipped most of the release stuff, but like it really worked. So yeah, I will say that.
And the key to that is like, if you can take the spice out and you still have a story, then it's like, then you have a novel, then you have it. But if the core development of the book is just the spice, then it's like, what's the point? It's like, okay, if I wanted to read that, I would read, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you have to make it fit. And so it's like,
And to me, and this is a hot take, so I'm probably going to get canceled for saying this as an author, but if you as an author cannot write romance without spice, like if you can't write a good romance without spice where the characters have a connection and a story, then you clearly need a little bit more training to write romance, because there still should be a story between them. There still should be an emotional connection. If their only connection is the spice, and if you're doing that to make money, good for you. I'm glad that you can make an income. It's really popular. I wish I could do that, but like, so kudos to anybody who's making money from it. Like, you're making a ton of money, but like, if you actually want to work on your craft, try writing a romance without spice and give them something more to connect on. And you're doing it for the spice and the money, and that's fine, but you're not writing romance to actually write a good romance, if that makes sense. So that's just my personal take.
Or if anything, build the relationship between the characters, so that way when you do put a spice scene into the mix, it makes sense and it feels like an achievement for the relationship.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, because there's been like,
I'll be doing my own, like, a video about spicy stuff soon. So I'll just, I don't know if it'll be out by the time this video comes out, but be looking for that. So, because I have that's a whole nother topic on that video. I'm excited to actually do a video about that. So yeah, it's one of those things. But regardless, I'm excited for this one and our October. No, I keep saying October. It's
well,
our
technically
November
it's still
TBR.
October.
It is. We're filming
November
this
is
on
tomorrow.
Halloween. Yeah, so I'm excited for November. Especially since for October I got really distracted because I was like trying to finish a writing competition and setting up for Nano, and it was crazy. So I think hopefully I can get into a good schedule and like wind down. And I also got distracted rereading my own series. I read from book 4 to book 9 in my own series, and that literally derailed my entire October TBR. But I did read. I read 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 in my own vampire romance series, but it just derailed my October TBR.
That's all right.
It's okay. So yeah, I think that's everything on my side. So yeah, I hope we'll check in with you guys in November when we have check-ins. I know you had started to do weekly check-ins with yourself, so I may do once a week for myself as well. And then we'll check in with each other throughout
holding
the month.
up our books on our TBR
if I don't drop my Kindle
for November.
All right.
Try not to drop your Kindle this time.
I want to put this book first. There we go. Sort of.
There you go. There we go. Kind of.
It's the only way
it works.
That's going to be a great thumbnail, I swear.
Yeah.
All right, we'll check in with you guys later.
All right.
Oh, real quick, if you guys are doing the challenge with us, put it in the comments below what you're reading. Well, we'll be reading this after. Whatever month you're doing this for, put it in the comments below and do it for the next month you're watching this video.
So, if you're watching this in December, put down your books for December.
Yeah, and do it with us.
Because eventually we'll be, so do it kind of follow along with us.
Yep, we'll check in with you guys later. Hey guys, so this is a check-in for my November TBR. I did a little clip at the Denny's we went to, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. So it is still November 2nd for me because I haven't gone to bed yet, and I met up with my editor today. She lives about an hour away from us, so she's an author and an editor, so we're actually able to meet up. So as she's editing my book series, we were able to meet up because she prints it off and like physically edits it, and I don't trust the mail not to lose it, and like that's the only copy of her edit, so we exchange it physically. But our town doesn't have a Denny's, hers does, so while we're there on our way home, my husband and I always eat at Denny's. So that was the clip earlier. So while we were waiting for our food, there was a portion where I did get to read. So Servants of Wings and Night, I wanted to check in with you guys. It's going really well. I'm not reading as fast as I would like, but I surprisingly do have extra time in the evening, usually about 3 a.m. 3:30 on nights when my husband's working because he doesn't get home till 1:30, and so we eat dinner and hang out and usually watch a bunch of things. So usually we get done about 3:30, 4 o'clock. So 3 to bedtime, which for me is 6 a.m. just before 6, so it's 5:30, is when I have reading time, but sometimes I'm tired and I doze off. So NaNoWriMo is exhausting for me because I'm writing a lot, which is nothing normal, nothing unusual. It is normal. But today we were gone all day, and then I did the dishes, and I had to write and send off my newsletters, and then I scrambled to literally write like 2,000 words and edit 2 more chapters, 2 more short stories in my Christmas book. And I did that, the last part, writing and editing, in like an hour. So I was exhausted. And then when my husband and I ate dinner, when we split back off, from 1 o'clock to just now, which is just after 3, I've been editing a YouTube video, our October TBR. So my brain is, and I need a break. But, so I am I feel like I should be reading faster. I'm not like obsessed like I was when I was reading Fourth Wing. Like Fourth Wing, that's all I wanted to do, and I just sat and read. Oopsie, I lost my bookmark. Fourth Wing, I just like would sit and read, so I'm not obsessed, but I really love this book. I think part of my problem is I still want like military romance, and I just feel like I'm reading slower in general, but there's like a lot of like really cool world building and race building in this, and it's just really cool. So the main premise, to get a little bit more specific, just really quick, is the vampires are divided by like 2 different types, and I cannot pronounce them, but it's like the Hijaj, whatever, I'm butchering that, and the Rishon, some of them have leather wings, some of them have feathered wings, and they have this goddess that has this competition called the Kajari every couple hundred years. I don't remember the exact number. And so they like cut their hands and do their blood and like enter the Kajari. So it's like this competition, this contest to like win, and she blesses somebody and they get super powerful and like immortal kind of stuff. I mean, they're all immortal, but like they become super powerful, and like the royal bloodline, I think they become the next royal or some powerful thing like that. And it's so cool so far. So I'm on page 76 out of like 400. So we're making progress. I've got this much read and this much to go. I'm hoping to, I don't want this to take me the whole month. I want to get to the rest of my list. Also, I wanted to point out a few other things here. So I am editing The Heart of Christmas, and I put this on the list to motivate me to edit it. And I'm editing the document on my computer, but I figured it's a collection of short stories, so as I finish each story, I'm just going to put my bookmark where I am in the physical book to kind of represent to you guys where I'm editing at. And so I started editing this yesterday, because it was November 1st, and I read 4 of the short stories yesterday, and I did 2 today because I was pressed for time. I'm supposed to be just doing 2 a day, that's my goal. So 4 day yesterday was nice, but I am this far, page 34, which in the ebook is actually like page 15. So same spot though. And I thought I was going to hate, like I told you guys I'm adding this to the list because I am really dreading it. I really dreaded it, but when I started reading it, first of all, it's not as bad as I thought it did. Like, it still needs an edit just to tighten things up, but it's not as bad as I was thinking in my head. And I'm actually kind of into it because I don't remember a lot of the stories. And another cool thing that happened, I'll try to be quick. I remember I wrote this in 2020, part of the Million Word Challenge. I don't think I have any videos on that actually, so scratch that. But, so I remember when I was writing this, a lot of these, not a lot, but like, there's a good number of stories in here that do feature like stories about some military people. And I remember when I wrote that, like, I would love to expand upon some of these stories and turn them into full books, and also make the military ones and turn them into like full military series and books and everything. And like, but at the time, I was like, you can't do that. You're not that good of a writer, and you probably won't be. And here I am 4 years later, I'm writing a military romantic suspense series, and I've gotten 1 book written, and I'm working on the second one, and I have plans for more. And some of these stories actually do fit as side characters, and I can expand upon them. And so it's like, I'm looking back on it, it's like 4 years later, I can do it, I really can. And I never thought I would be capable of that. And it's just like, it's a nice little thing. So this book has brought me a lot of joy. So again, I'm editing this after I get my writing done in the evening, and then trying to read this in the late evenings. I also wanted to tell you guys a few things. So I don't have it visually, but the chick who edited the Japanese portion, the 1860s Japan portion of Immortal, her name is Poppy Karaoke, and she lived in Japan for a long time, and I think she had married a Japanese man, and so she was such a blessing. But she wrote a Japanese time travel romance, I think, and we were talking about our books at the same time a while back, and her book has released, I think, in the UK first, so it's been a long time. Like, I've been waiting for her book. Okay, so I've been waiting on her book for many, many years, and it's finally releasing in the US. The ebook is already released. The paperback and the audiobook are coming out in January. So I pre-ordered the paperback and the audiobook to support her, and because we were talking about it, so like, I've been really interested in this for a long time. But I'm so pumped because I'm proud of her. It hit number 2 today in one of the categories, and it's right behind Outlander. Diana Gibhan or whatever, and I love the Outlander series, the TV series. I haven't read the books yet, but I do want to. I do have the first book on my shelf, but it does have bad content in there, so for the TV series I like skip all the bad scenes. But Outlander is one of the most famous, if not the most famous, time traveler romance that's out there right now, and they're getting ready to go in their final season. I'll have a reaction to the trailer when it comes out, so be looking for that, or if not, I'll have it as a card here. But It's so huge. It is one of the biggest, and she's number 2. She's right behind it. So shout out to Poppy. Shout out to the Gates of Kirishima or something. I'll have a link in the description below. But I pre-ordered it, so that's going to be my February TBR, along with Onyx Storm, which is also coming out at the end of February. So February is a big month for me, y'all. But I also did another thing, too. I bought the Clean and Christian Military Romance series. Romantic suspense series. So all of these books, I bought it because, again, this series really disappointed me. So I bought all of these, and these are Christian, and I'm excited because they're clean, they're Christian, but they're still romantic suspense military books. I'm so excited. So the first book in this one is called Searching. Is it Searching for Peace? Oh, it's somewhere in here. It should be in here, but the first book in that series is also on this month's October TBR, or it's November, I mean, my November TBR, so I did that too. So I just wanted to fill you guys in on all that. I've been talking for 8 minutes. I need to get to reading, and I will check in with you guys the next time. So this has been my week 1 check-in, so I probably won't check in until week 2. It's November! November 3rd to be precise, so we're doing a check-in. Also, real quick, my computer is going to die. I forgot I unplugged
that's
it.
not good.
Yeah, no. I unplugged it because of the light.
So we need this is where we need the epic battle music, like da 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 da. It's like trying to beat the clock.
I'll add some battle music in there because it's like it has a life.
It's like with the camera shaking effect.
No, it has a light at night, and I have to have utter darkness, and so at nighttime I unplug it. But I haven't played games in for a while, so it's been unplugged for days. And so I've looked and I was like, it's gonna die. Okay. Anyways, so we have a lot. I did a check-in yesterday, so my stuff may be repeated. So if I'm repeating myself, we can just
I have not done a check-in yet.
Yes, so Hannah, you go first because you are the one that has not filmed a check-in.
Okay, so
I mean, in your defense, it's only been 3 days, so I probably didn't need to have done one, but a lot happened. So
well, the thought crossed my mind yesterday. I'm like, I need to do beginning of the month check-in. I'm like, I'll do it later, and then it's like. I started talking to you, like, I've already recorded one of my check-ins, and I'm like, no, I have not. But I know this is kind of sometimes controversial because some people don't always. There are people that don't think listening to the audiobook counts as reading. I always come at it from the struggling reader perspective, which I've mentioned plenty of times. But for me, audiobooks are a great way. If I know I'm going to be busy a lot or driving to different places in the afternoon and evenings, or if I'm going to be in a car, because I go to different places throughout the week, and so I like having the audiobooks for that because my phone connects to my car and it automatically continues playing the audiobook. And if I have read further than where the audiobook left off, I can just click the new chapter.
Right.
Because I always stop at a chapter when I stop reading. And so, but listening to the audiobook for some reason just helps me add more personality to the characters as I'm reading them. And so, the Throne of Glass series, it's really big, especially with, after you get past, it's in, book 1, and in the first book too, but as you get past some of the first few books, there's one, but when you hit a certain book, it starts introducing several POVs. So you may read Selena's perspective, and then you may get into some of the other characters, and then before long, you have because I think in this book there's 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, maybe 5 or 6 different perspectives that you'll read from, and it's and so, but I think the girl that does the audiobook, does the narration for the audiobooks, is really good about adding personality to the characters as she reads, and so that has helped me get back into it pretty well. And as you can see, I've been sticky note tabbing different things, but yeah, and so I'm probably, I think you might hear thunder because it's raining currently.
I actually thought I saw lightning in your window, but I'm like, maybe I'm just crazy and it's the glare from my computer.
It's storming tonight, but I just I wanted to get back into it because I know this. I I'm so close to. I have, from the way people react when people bring up the ending of the series, which I have no idea what happens at the end because I've avoided enough spoilers. But like people are always saying they think this is a better series than ACOTAR. And I honestly have a hard time like fully saying that because I see ACOTAR as a romantasy and I see this as an epic fantasy.
Yeah.
I don't see them in the same genre, so I can't say this is better than that.
Yeah.
And well, one I haven't finished reading it yet. And I know some people may be looking at this is better, this series is better than that, purely based on writing. And I don't know if but I don't analyze how things are written. I am purely a story, like a story reader, like a storybook type. Like the like anytime I play a game, I'm always looking, what's the lore of this game, you know? Like that's why like Five Nights at Freddy's fascinates me because people like Matt Pat and all these other people are like diving into the lore behind the like what's going on in the games and the story that's being told within the games. And I'm like, that's so fascinating, even though I've never actually played any of them. But it's like I just find that fascinating. And so it's like when I read books, I'm looking for the story. I'm diving purely in it for the story. And that's like I know you have a more of an editor brain at times. So if it's a really good, if it's really good, like you're always looking at how it's written too. And it's like some of those things may just completely go over my head because I'm just so engrossed in what's going on in the story. And so that's why if a character doesn't do what I think they should, what I would want them to do in the moment or how I want this, I always like happy ending, let's be honest. And I have a feeling that this is not going to end in a happy ending, but we're not going to get into that. But it's like, I don't look at how it's written. And so it's like, but it's just, I'm getting into it. I don't know where I was going with that statement, with all that brand tyrant thing. But yeah, I'm slowly getting into it. I'm about halfway.
That's good.
So 43%. I'm not quite halfway yet, but it's getting good. Yeah, I think I'm getting close to probably the first spicier bit in this entire series. And I'm like 2 books away from finishing it, if that gives you any hints. So it is different than ACOTAR in that sense. Like it is it's way less focused on romance. And more focused on the story and world building and, you know, progression of the story. Like if you take the romance out, you definitely still have a story.
Then
like,
it's that's
why I'm gonna, like that's how I'll put it. It is. That's why I think it's honestly with certain characters. I don't even say it's. I don't even call this a romance. Like that's the thing. Like there's a romance in the story. And it's finally getting to the point where they're really kind of beginning to take that next step with their romance. But it's like...
It seems like it's more fantasy than with the romantic subplot.
Yeah, so it's not. I wouldn't even say that it's like romantasy. I wouldn't even go that far. Because like if you compare this
you still have to be balanced with the romance.
To like Silver Flames was way more focused on romance. Or
Silver
like
Flames doesn't have a story if you take
the
romance out of it. So it's definitely like Silver Flames is a true, and most of the ACOTAR series is still like romantasy because you still don't have much of a plot left if you take the romance out of it. So, but like regular fantasy can still have romantic subplots and they're still fantasy. So,
and so it's like this one I would definitely say, honestly, this series feels like more of an epic fantasy. And considering how like you have like they may have like one success in one situation and then you realize there's way more dark on the horizon and like there's something else or this dips down and you thought this was going to happen but it turns out the people don't act or react the way you want them to act or react and then it's like this is going to be harder than what I thought it was. You know, so it's like she's not going to be able to achieve this right away like I'm wanting. It's going to take her some time, which is realistic, but it's like in my head, I want it to be like, I want this to end well. I want you to be able to achieve this particular thing. And it's like, no, she's going to have to work for that a little bit more before she gets that. And it's like, makes it relatable and makes it realistic. But I'm like, so that's my check-in. So I'm still working on that. I don't know how I'm going. I read the blurb for this one, which takes place at the same time as this one, but they're at different locations in the continent type thing at the moment. So I don't know. In this particular character, I have empathy for now, but I'm still not a big fan of.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how you react to that book then.
Yeah.
I wish I could talk more about it, but I haven't read them yet, and I don't want spoilers, so it's really hard to like get into a good convo about it.
I forgot how long. Like in the camera, these don't look very long, but like both of these are like 600 pages.
Yeah, I was like
this one is.
I saw your Goodreads update, and I'm like, you're making such good progress. Yeah. Like mine's only 400 pages, and I feel like that's my biggest issue is I feel like I should be reading faster, and I'm not. And it's like I surprisingly
you have NaNoWriMo you're working on too. So.
Yeah, and I'm also editing, so I'm not just like writing. I'm also editing The Heart of Christmas.
You're juggling several things.
Having free time, like a couple of hours in the evening to read, and then like sometimes like last night I was so tired I started falling asleep, and I was like, all right, we've got to get to the next break. And I'm not kidding, like the last paragraph that I read, I was at the end of chapter 12, it was the end of chapter 12 right before the part 3 started. And I had to reread these 2 pages because I would like fall asleep, wake up, and reread the same paragraph, but I'm not comprehending anything. Fall asleep, and that happened.
I've done that before.
And so then I started watching. So then I switched to YouTube, and I fell asleep. And the next thing I know, Michael's waking me up, and it's like 6 a.m. And then I had the weird thing that I finished my work last night. It was hilarious. And I sat down on the couch at 3 a.m. I was like, okay, it's 3 o'clock. I have plenty of time. So I sat down and I filmed my check-in. And then I read for a long time. And I look at my phone, and I'm like, it's 3 o'clock. I was like, hold on, how did a whole hour pass? And
daylight savings time.
I thought I was going crazy. I was like, I swear it was 3 o'clock. I've been here for an hour. How is this possible? And I was like, hold on, it's fall. And I was like, did we fall back? And so I'm awake. Funny. So me and Michael always are awake, and we gain that extra hour. I gained that extra hour in my free time. And so, yeah, we fell back, and I didn't know what was going on. Funny. So then I slept the rest of the time because in my head, it's like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. And so by the time we got to bed at 6, it was supposed to be like 7. So my brain's like, dude, you're out. And the next thing I know, Michael's waking me up, and I'm like, I didn't even know what day it was. I had slept so hard on the couch. It was insane.
Oh, that's funny.
That's a whole nother tangent. So I feel like I'm going really slow. I want to be done with it. And I was like, I got so technical. I was like, okay, if I do 20 pages a day, how many days is it going to take me to finish this book?
But that'll take the fun out of it.
I know. And so I'm like, no, I can't do it technically.
Don't do that.
And so I just read a little, watched a little, read a little. And so I kind of went back and forth a little bit. But the plot's picking up. And it's like, it's really interesting. Like, I'm so into it. I just don't know why I'm, like, reading slower than I would like to. And I don't know if it's because there's a lot more, like information to soak in, and so I'm not going as fast. Because it's got so much race building. World building. Yeah, and I love it. It's really, like, Hunger Games 100%. The vampires from Skyrim, it really reminds me of, like, Harkin's Court and that whole plot line vibe. And I really like the way she describes the wings. I love Rian, or I don't know what his name is. Rain is how I said it. Okay, Rain.
That's how the audiobook said it.
That sounds like a girl name, but okay. So Rain and stuff. So he's pretty intriguing, and I don't know how long the other little alliance is going to last. And it's just really interesting to me, and I'm just really into it. Okay. But I'm just reading so slow. And then my one complaint is that they're not very realistic with the wounds, and it's kind of like a minor thing. It's not like a big deal, but like she had this arrow wound in her thigh, and she was like walking up all this stuff, and I'm like, and then it mentioned several times that she's lost a lot of blood. She's lost a lot of blood, and then like she's not passing out. And like it just said she like bandaged it, but I'm like, you should have put a tourniquet on your leg because that's how you stop the bleeding. So my brain got a little, it was just a little unrealistic. Yeah. If she put a tourniquet on, she would have been fine, but it just didn't say for sure.
I think and then she just kind of skipped over the details of how they healed it, just specifically. they got it taken care
I mean, and it's a fantasy, so there's room for some leeway there. But that kind of just was a little minor thing, but it wasn't like I'm going to hate the book now. It was just like that was unrealistic.
Wasn't a deal breaker.
Let's be honest, a lot of fantasies do. I've done it too. We just brush over injuries because we got to move on to the next plot point. So it's like, all right, you're just going to, she could have just put in like, she limped or something, but it was like, I found, so cool thing, I did this in the check-in, so I'll have to repeat myself, but Hannah doesn't know this. So when I was writing this in 2020, I wrote a lot of these just coincidentally dealt with like military guys just by accident. And I remember reading it and thinking, I really wish I could write a military series, like a really military romance, but you're not, you can't do it. You're not good enough. And I thought that back in 2020. And now I'm reading these stories, and a lot of them could potentially be extended family members and connect with the series that I'm writing right now. And I'm like, dude, you've done it. My last one was 100K. I'm at 8,000 words right now. And I was like 4 years ago, I didn't think I could. And it was like a God blessing. Like, look, like 4 years, look how far I've come. And so I was like really touched. So I think I've edited 6 stories so far out of 50, but they're like really, really quick. Like, I haven't done today's, but I figured I actually have extra time to do that. So this is actually one of the longer ones. And then I dread it so bad. I dreaded it so bad, but I don't know why, because they're actually like really cute, and they're also not as badly written and don't need as much work as I thought. I'm literally just, sorry, my eye is being stupid. I'm just tightening up the writing a little bit, and that's it. The biggest one I think is I got some negative feedback on one where this chick, I wanted to do one where she's at Christmas, but she's giving labor. I was like, what a way to spend Christmas, in labor. And the labor apparently was like unrealistic. And so I was trying to like adjust that, and I'm like, I don't know what that's like, so I was trying to like research and stuff, but that's been the only big issue. The rest of it, I actually came up with ideas for other books on my military series, like, okay, I know who this person is, this is that person's family, and it's just like, I don't know, it's just really cool. Because at the time I was writing fantasy, and so this was such an effort to write this book because it was contemporary, and I didn't write contemporary at all. I was more of a fantasy person, and I was like, dude, you're never going to be able to write a contemporary series like that, because anything more than these short stories. And I'm like, now I can. I don't know how. And so it's just really cool. And also I forgot, but this was also one of the books I wrote in the Million Word Challenge. So it was the second to last book that I finished in the challenge. So I thought that was pretty neat too.
I wrote a lot that year.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So those are those two. And I'm editing it on my computer, but I can keep track of physically where I am, so you guys can like see my progress. So I've gotten this much done, and I've got this much left to go. But I have a routine of sitting down writing, and then I do my editing after I post on social media and Nano. And then I also have some more books that I bought. So the chick that edited the 1860s Japan part in Immortal, her name is Poppy Karaoke. She edited the cultural Japanese, anything to do with Japanese stuff, she edited that for me. And she was also married to a Japanese man, and she was the one who helped me with like the death poem kanji translation and stuff. Well, a long time ago, me and her would talk about our books, and she was working on her Japanese book, and it just now released. It's been in the UK for a while, but the ebook just released in the US, and she was literally number 2 in the time traveling romance series.
That's awesome.
But she was right behind the chick who wrote Outlander, so she's right behind Outlander. And she showed a picture, and I'm like, so I was freaking out, and I've been waiting forever.
Did you see the lightning?
Oh no, I wasn't watching.
See it? You're wasn't watching. The viewers could see it.
Sort of impulse bought her paperback on pre-order. It'll come out January. So at the end of January, February's TBR list is going to have Onyx Storm.
It's going to be intense.
And it's going to be building up for me. And then I also had an extra credit on Audible, so that's the other audiobook I got. I got her audiobook on pre-order as well, so I could do both at the same time. Yeah. So, and then I did Cave, and I bought that Christian romance series. So the first book's on my TBR list for this month, if I can get to it, if I can ever get through.
Do the other blurbs, is it one of those things that, are they standalones, or do you need to read the first one to read the others?
They're technically standalones. It says that. They're series of standalones, but my brain is like half like yours sometimes, so it's like sometimes I feel the need to go in chronological order, but we'll see what happens. I get that. But I want to actually stick with my TBR list this time, so if I can ever get through this book. All right, so I caved and bought the Christian romance series, but that's provided I could get through this book. And it's not like I'm not struggling to get through it. It's just I feel like I'm reading and reading and reading, but like, oh my gosh, it's only been like 2 pages. It just feels like I'm reading a lot with like
one thing I've noticed
progress.
Is that like she with this first, because the one thing that's interesting, this whole series I think is built on duologies.
Yeah.
So like book 1 that you're reading and book 2 that I just finished. I finished last month. There, it's like book 1 and 2 of the Nightborn,
Mm-hmm.
the Nightborn court or whatever, Nightborn something, and then book 3 on Amazon that's in pre-order right now that comes out like in a couple weeks is like it's book 3 of the series, but it's book 1 of this new duology, and so it's like book 1, but it's also book 3. And so it's kind of interesting that it's like in this first book, like she's literally like I guess any first book in the series is big on world building, but it's like I feel like there's so many books like with the Fae, with that Fae kind of niche that I imagine, it. I don't
like a lot of the world, like you said, there's a lot.
I don't want to say it's
like
it's
a lot
just
of the
this one felt really unique to me.
Yeah, it's like really similar. So like when your brain soaks up certain details, so it's like it's not that hard to process. Like you throw me in Akatar or even in like Throne of Glass, it's not that heavy-handed. It's not that intense. That's why I was able to read from book 4 of the Mystic series to book 9 in like 2 weeks. I was just like, because it's my own book, I know everything, and so it's just like with something that's like new, your brain takes longer to process. So even like I would consider myself a pretty decent reader. I'm not the fastest or the best, but I would but like even someone like me, it's just taking me longer to get through and everything. But I would say the one thing I will warn people, this does have a lot of violence in it, but I love it. It is so gritty. I am like, this is my kind of like action. The gritty action and violence in this is so good.
I was hoping.
I was 5 when we went to see The Patriot, which is a rated R Mel Gibson movie in theaters. I was 5, so I grew up with The Patriot. So it's not as violent now when you look back on it compared to like movies today.
Yeah, but like, it was then.
I am so desensitized to violence.
Things like Passion of the Christ. Like I didn't even watch The Passion of the Christ until I was probably like middle school. Because if you've seen it, there's a lot of like torture that.
It took like and 2 times. I still saw it when I was pretty young, but like the first time we were just crying so hard. I don't think we got through it the first time, but like I still like I am pretty desensitized to violence, but I love really good action scenes. Like you give me a guy with an axe and he's cleaving it through somebody's skull and we've got some epic fight scenes, like I'm all here for it. And I sound like a psychopath, but like I just
read a battle scene in here, so I guess we're just reading fight scenes at the moment because I just finished reading one.
They were fighting against, they called them demons, but they're more, I don't like demons and stuff. That gives me the heebie-jeebies, but to me they were more like just monsters. And they were trapped in these little domes with them, and coincidentally she gets paired up with Rain, which again is not a guy name, so I like calling him Ron, but it's whatever. Rain, Ron, Rayhan or something, I don't know, but whatever. And I mean, it was like so intense, and I like that it wasn't easy, and that it's not easy for her, and that she's not just like this Ray character who's just blowing through things. Like she knows how to fight because Vincent trained her, but like she's the only human in a world of vampires. So I feel like it's again a really, really good twist on the strong female lead trope, because she's a strong female because she has to stay alive, but that doesn't make her stronger than everybody else. So again, my only warning to anybody, like, this is a really good book, but just if you're a person who doesn't do violence, then it probably won't be for you. But
I didn't think about that, but
some people love spice but can't handle violence. Some people like violence and can't handle spice. Like, that's me. Like, I can do fine with violence, but I don't do a whole lot of spice. So, but I'm just really excited. Like, and again, it's like really action packed. And there were, what was it? There are some parts that are a little slow, but I'm just interested to see how the rest of the, like, the plot is going to unfold, because we've got, supposedly they're going to be here for a while, like months and months and months. So,
yeah.
And I love the whole house changing thing. Honestly, weirdly, I wanted to tell you, like, I don't know if you remember, but after the Hunger Games, my author community on Wattpad, we started having the authors games where we, like, rewrote the Hunger Games, but, like, other versions of it, and like we would get voted off one by one until there was a single winner. And so one of them was Authors Games floors, and each floor was like a different like arena essentially that would like challenge our characters. And the moving house thing reminds me a lot about Authors Games floors, and so I was having a lot of vibes from that. But it's definitely adult. It's definitely way more mature than the Hunger Games, which I love, because I love it that the fact that it's more gritty. So yeah, and then I love the vampires, the vampire races, and the fact that there's like some that have leather wings, some that have feathered wings,
and the fact that they're not all just band together, all brothers and sisters, like they're fighting all the time, and they're like they've been fighting for centuries, just like, you know, back and forth. And then you have like the certain gods that are just sitting back watching it happen, and it's like, I don't know, it gives me almost like the Greek mythology type of vibe. Yeah. But at the same time, it's vampires and that kind of thing too. And it's like, it's just, that's why I said that it was like, I described it as being like a really unique series that I feel like I can't really compare it with. I can't really pick out just one particular series to compare it to, because it's like, it's just a mesh of several different things. Yeah. And I will say one thing. On the one hand, I don't like when books and series do like other types of gods, mostly when Christianity gets thrown in there and twisted somehow. Like Game of Thrones was like the later seasons of Game of Thrones when they had that weird cult, like religious cult that like took over, got a little where it was like you twist Christianity, but Christianity's insane and we're crazy. Like I don't like a lot of that stuff. But like the Skyrim, like the Greek gods a little bit, like I don't personally like learning about it as much, but like when somebody goes through the effort to like world build all these different like this lore, I guess it's the lore that I'm attracted to sometimes, where it's like, you know, like in my own, like I would never write that because to me God's like the one true God, but like if I do, it would be obviously everybody else would be false. But like for other things, like it's really creative and I love the lore, and that's what I'm kind of like, because there was they mentioned that the trials mimic something that Naxia, their death goddess or whatever, went through. And they had this little snippet of like she escaped and went through this thing, and like she went into the desert, she was attacked by beasts. That lore was like, I want to know more, you know what I'm saying? Like I want a lore book, like, you know what I mean? I wonder if it's like mirroring like a Greek mythology, a Greek god mythology. I wonder if there's any kind of inspiration there. Echo is like, see a little Echo's head just been poked through. Yeah, and then there's thunder and everything. So he normally isn't scared of thunder, so I think he's just wanting attention. He probably wants to go outside, don't you, buddy? It's okay. But yeah, it's really fascinating. I'm just like not reading it as fast, but it's probably because my brain's having to soak in more information, and then it's like helping me wind down. She world builds a lot in that first book. Yeah, like there's a lot that. Oh, our lights flickered, so my electricity may go. Mine did too. Oh. But yeah, we're both having a storm. There's lots of storms going on at the moment, if you haven't heard or seen the lightning flashing outside my window. Or hearing my thunder rumbling outside my window. Yeah. But yeah, it's really fun. Yeah. Oh, yeah, and what you have to remember too predictions. You'll have to hide your face if you can't, because I have a couple predictions, but I don't know why, but right from the start, I'm getting bad vibes from her adopted dad, Vincent, so I just wanted to put this on camera in case I'm right, and if I'm wrong, we can laugh about it later, but I think he's gonna end up being a bad guy. He rubs me the wrong way, and I'm like, he's too loving and caring about her. I'm thinking he's gonna be a bad guy. He's gonna be the ultimate baddie, or at least an antagonist of some sort, so I wanted to say that on camera. I like him, so that's out there. Any other predictions? I don't know how her and Ron or Rain or the main guy, I don't know how they're gonna
get together. They seem like they're the main couple, but like I don't know, sometimes I kind of like I doubt it because the interactions aren't going as fast, and I guess this isn't a true romantasy. It's probably a fantasy with a romantic subplot, so it may be a little bit more of a slow burn and not as prominent in there. But there's really
it's definitely more of a slow burn.
Yeah, and then at first I was thinking it was going to be Eve,
but it's not.
What is?
It's not a true. It's not a true romance.
Okay.
Either. So yeah, that's all I'm saying.
I was hoping that they would get together, but they I don't know. They're seeming like it's not going to be that way. But if it is, it could be a true enemies to lovers that could really work, because they actually legitly seem like enemies that are just kind of going to work together for the time being. And then the minute that it suits them, they're going to kill each other. So I'm like, that could work. But at first I was thinking maybe the guy would be Ibahan or whatever his name is. But then he had so many, like, he was really deformed and stuff. So I was like, he's probably just going to be cannon fodder. That's a term I use as an author. We all have those characters that are just the characters that are written to die. And I call them cannon fodder. And so they're in everything that's going to kill something. So I'm calling the Ibahan as cannon fodder. I will say, I don't want to spoil things, so non-spoiler, but there was a death, like, right at the start that I did not expect or see coming. I thought it was going to be more toward the end. So I actually got quite a bit of feels from that.
Okay, spoiler chunk, skip, like, the next 50
I'll put
minutes,
the time card to skip to here on the screen, and I'll have the spoiler warning at the top. So this is spoiler talk.
Okay.
All right. The old lady's death.
Oh yeah, that tore me apart.
That hurt. Yeah. That hurt. And the fact that it was so graphic, and I love. Again, I'm a psychopath. So the fact that it's not just vampires, two fangs, and it's like, what's the big deal? It's just a little bit of blood loss. Like in the average vampire thing, it's like sucking somebody's blood's actually not that bad, because it's two fangs, so the wounds aren't going to bleed that bad unless you hit the jugular or whatever that's called. And so it's like, but the fact that it's so violent actually makes vampires more scary in that sense. Yeah. And I love that the fact that when they overgorge, it makes them feel more like monsters. Mm-hmm. It makes them feel more like monsters. That's why it's got a gothic, kind of like that old school kind of gothic vampire feel, and I like it. Like the mm-hmm. So yeah, and I love that they get. I've never even in vampire lore, I don't know of any legend that like does the whole when they gorge themselves they get sluggish. So that was a super creative detail that I really loved, because I was like, and my brain's looking for the main male love interest. Like so if humans overeat, like if you think about on Thanksgiving, like turkey has like a certain effect where we get tired, chemical that causes you to get tired, like, and so it's like humans, if we overeat we get sluggish and we can't move as easily, and we get tired and we take naps, and it's like it kind of mirrors that in a way, but with I didn't think about that. So my brain was also looking for the main male love interest, so when that happened and it's like he was slumped against the wall, I'm like, okay, this is gonna be it. And then I was like, she stabs him, I'm like, wait, never mind, that wasn't him, moving on. So that was funny. But that did tie in later, so I liked that drama. And I So have you read the like what all have you read with her finding with the woman dying? Like, was it the part, like, describe that part that you've read with that? The woman's body was found pretty quickly, and then she hid in the greenhouse, and then for some reason she came out of the greenhouse, but I think it was to find the woman's body, and she found her body. Was it in the hallway? Was it the part whenever she kills the person, like she kills the person? She finds in the hallway, and there's this vampire there, and then it overgorged, and she kills him, and then later on in the cafeteria, that was some other guy's brother, and he was like freaking out, but like she didn't say that it was her. Oh, okay. The part when the part that like gutted me and I would like made me feel so bad is when she pulled the scarf out, and then I think about how she was throwing such a big fit about the scarf. And didn't the lady offer it to her and she didn't take it? Yeah, it was like, and she didn't want to take it, and then and I'm like, if that was me, back to the woman anyway. I would have been like, I know, like, I'm like, I know how I would have felt in that situation, and like that part gutted me. It hurt a lot. I was like so devastated. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then she pulls out the scarf and I'm like, oh no.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
it hurt a lot. And I
Yeah.
wasn't expecting it to, like, happen so fast. I thought she would die probably,
Yeah.
like, late. Like, that took me for I was like, all right, she's dead.
Yeah.
That happened, you know. It was, like, so fast.
Yeah.
All right, you guys can come back now. This is the
Okay.
time. The spoiler can go off the thing. I do a lot of spoiler talk, so I've got a system for, like, warning people ahead of time and everything.
That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's definitely, like, almost ruining vampires for me in the sense that it's so good. It's going to be hard to find anything else that, like, tops that. You know, I'm like, how am I supposed to go back and reread the Twilight series after this? Because that's another video I want to do. Yeah. I'm like, I gotta finish Midnight Sun. But on the other hand, it's getting me in a vampire mood on the other side of it, too. So,
yeah. Well, and one thing you have to remember is, like, I describe Midnight Sun as being way more complex than Twilight. Some people claim that it's her filling all the plot holes that you have in Twilight. I play it off as Edward's mind is so much more mature than Bella's. Yeah, mentally, he is not a 17-year-old. Mentally, he is much, much, much older than her. And so he is a vampire and is, like, a vampire who's intrigued with Bella. And so the fact that it includes, like he's focusing way more on what she says and the conversations and all of that. And the reason why it's so much more detailed is because that's just how his brain works. And his brain is so much more complicated than what we give him credit for.
Yeah, that was the vibe I was getting when I was reading it. And I genuinely, like, one of the things that I was saying, and if I ever finish that video, it'll be up soon, but it literally, he sounds like a Victorian era gentleman kind of guy, and I loved that voice. But then, of course, we were listening to Fourth Wing when we went to Branson, and I fell completely out of Midnight Sun, so there was no going back.
Yeah, that's my fault.
But a couple of other things, though, I was getting on Goodreads to try to update my Goodreads, and it had at the top that there was this book that was, like, getting revised or something, and it's called Shiver, and I don't know if it's the same one. But there was a book
is that
called
like
Shiver. Hold on. There was a book that I read called Shiver when I was in, what grade was I in?
Middle school.
It must have been middle school.
Middle school type thing.
Yeah, and okay, anyways, I read this book called Shiver. I read this book called Shiver when I was in middle school, and I loved it. And it was so good. And it was like, I didn't know if there were any more books in it or not. And I want it, and now I think if it's the same book, I have got to reread it.
There's two others.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, there's two others. There was a green colored one and then, like, a red colored one. It's by Maggie.
That was really dusty. I'm sorry. Was this that book that you were talking about the other day?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have that one since I was, like, in high school, and I just have never read it.
Ah, okay. Well, I've had it on my shelf forever, and I just saw it down there, so I was like, "Was this it?" So,
yeah. It's Maggie something. I can't pronounce. I don't want to mispronounce her name, so I'm just not going to pronounce it.
Girl, it got me. It started at the girl in love with the guy who's stuck in his wolf form. I think it was like that whole vibe.
Yeah. Okay, so there's 3. It's a trilogy. There's Shiver, Linger, and Forever. There's 3 of them.
Oh my god!
I remember the cover. I remember the covers. Like, book 1 was blue, book 2's green, and book 3 was red.
Honey, that was before I read Fallen. So Fallen was the series that inspired Immortal. That was before Fallen was a thing. Like, that was before I got into the Fallen Angel romances, which I want to have a whole other video. We have to talk about Fallen Angel romances, because after Vampires, Fallen Angels was, like, the thing. And my Hush Hush series has been sitting on my shelf staring at me, calling my name, so I've been trying to ignore it, because I'm like, I shouldn't be reading any more Fallen Angel romances, but...
I'm pretty sure Crescent City has something to do with, like, angels and... angels and gods and demons and stuff like that, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if I read something about, like,
provided I can ever get through Throne of Glass.
But like I said, I have to get through this series, and before I start that,
I'm like, I gotta do this, and then we'll see. Yeah. By the way, I don't know if I told you guys in the video, but I mentioned it to her. My idea for getting through Throne of Glass this round, when I do get around to finishing this this thing is the audiobook. I got the audiobook for Throne of Glass, so I will be going through that at the same time because that helped me with Court of Silver Flames. So that's going to be technique number 2. And then if that doesn't work, technique number 3 is I'll switch to the prequel, the prequel. I was getting the series mixed up, and try that one. So that was the game plan. But I think that's going to be our check-in for today. Because it's 11:09, so I gotta eat dinner soon. And I still want to chit chat with my cousin just like off camera. So, but yeah, so that's pretty much everything that has happened to us book wise, and then some.
Yep.
So we will check in with you guys some other time. And it's November 3rd. Yeah. We're still the beginning. I'm like, it's 3 days in, so I gotta remind myself that I'm 3 days into November, so I guess it's not too bad. So, and I'm making quite a bit of progress. And what you have to remember too is at this one too.
I've done a lot of reading, but that's only because it's the weekend. Like as soon as the school week starts, I'm gonna be like snail pace again. So it happens. Because I just don't have time. I don't have time to read during the day.
Yeah, I've been trying to sneak in snippets here and there. Like, I've been bringing it with me everywhere. So, but yeah, we'll check in with you guys next time.
All right.
So, I am in absolute comfort mode right now, but I wanted to check in real quick. It's still the same day. I think we did a check-in earlier today. It's November 3rd, and it's probably like 4 a.m. or 5 a.m., but I've been reading and dozing and reading and dozing. But I wanted to get this thought out before I forget. So my further theory that her adopted father is the main villain, I'm seeing some major red flags here. I'm on page 116 and 117 in the book, chapter 14. I really think he's the main villain because there's some major, at least to me, they're coming off as like the way that he's talking to her, and kind of like it comes off as a caring father, but I can see how it's like emotionally manipulative, and I don't know if it's because I kind of like know about that, but he's given me some red flags, guys. So I'm thinking that her adopted dad's the main villain, and I just want to call that, and it's not a spoiler because that's my theory. I don't know if I'm going to be right or wrong. Maybe I'm reaching, but that's my theory. Page 116 and 117. 117 especially was like, gave me a major red flag. So I wanted to say that because I may forget to tell Hannah later, so I wanted to get this out here. So ignore the fact that I've got a hood on. It's comfortable to sit here at the couch with my hood. However, this is a check-in for November's TBR. I'm really, really into the book, and I'm making a lot of progress. So yesterday was election day. Today I had to catch up on a lot of things. So as a reward for myself, I decided to read with some hot chocolate, so I'm pretty excited, and I'm nice and cozy and warm with all my blankets, but I had a thought, I wanted to share it. So if you don't want any spoilers at all for The Serpent and the Wings of Night, click away. But it's not like major spoilers, it's just like if you don't want to know anything about the book, then click away. Okay, where did it go? I chose this life, but that child didn't. That line hit me hard, and my thoughts on this are like, no, the main character didn't choose this life. Her family was killed, and she was taken and raised by Vincent to be a certain way. So, yeah, this is my thoughts. It just gets to me. All right, I'm going to continue reading and drinking hot chocolate. Just look at these. Let me get that out of the way. Also, husky. Okay, and I thought there was a kitty, but yeah, husky.